So hello and welcome to this Hansen webinar on the next generation approach to provisioning BSS and OSS. So we'll be looking at why we need to take a fresh look at BSS and OSS and how cloud native software is changing the landscape for service provider systems. We'll also be looking at Hansen Provision Release 7, which is our cloud native provisioning platform. We'll end with questions, so I'd really encourage you to use the box on the screen to ask us anything you want to know, and time permitting, we'll answer these questions at the end of the webinar. So your subject matter experts from Hansen are Brian Capilani, who is Senior Vice President for Research and Development, and Nishant Rao, who is Product Manager for Hansen Provision. And I'm Steve Costello, I work in the Hansen Product Marketing team. So without further ado, let's look at the next generation BSS and OSS. And Brian, before we start, actually, can you talk us through a little bit how current BSS and OSS looks and kind of why we are now in a position where we need to kind of rethink the way we do things?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Steve. I mean, in the CSP market now, I think we see a lot of what we would call it legacy software, software that was built under sort of older architectural paradigms that matched with maybe the environment of the time. These were large, kind of monolithic software applications that were built to operate in an environment of sort of very little change, simple product offerings, and everything running within the walls of the CSP. And while they were suitable for their time, they didn't allow for a lot of agility. We're talking about things like annual release cycles, heavy upgrade and customization costs, and really being kind of statically sized and operated under sort of pretty consistent standard performance conditions. But what we're seeing now, and I think that we'll talk about in this webinar, is sort of the changing dynamics of both the networks and overall market conditions. It's making operators start to really think about what they're looking for in these platforms. And they're looking for innovation, agility, the ability to integrate their systems with those of their partners. And it's things these monolithic software architectures are struggling to deliver.